My name is Rama Carty. I am a former Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainee. I was detained on March 10th of 2008. I spent more than 16 months in Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention. My goal here today is to enlighten and expose what's happening with respect to immigration policy in the United States. Most people who enter into immigration detention are not given the opportunity to get what is called an individualized determination for bond. What that means is that in what is supposed to be a civil detention, people are not given the opportunity to go before an immigration judge or potentially an ICE officer and make their arguments or make their case with respect to why they should not be detained. Most people who are detained end up being detained indefinitely. Many people are shipped around the country in violation of their rights. They are shipped away from their family and all of their legal resources. The government does not provide attorneys, and so people are left with very little resources, thousands of miles away, and they are not able to reverse the process, and thus they are deported or ordered deported much more easily, which is a violation of their rights. Most of the people who are going through this process have families that are being destroyed because of the process. I've met many immigration detainees whose civil rights were violated by either law enforcement or some other aspect of the government, or a state government or county government, and they are not able to reverse that process because they've been placed in immigration detention indefinitely or without an individualized determination for bond. In my situation, I was convicted of a drug case in the state of Maine. It was a wrongful conviction. I was never able to reverse that conviction because I was placed in immigration detention. While I should have been working to reverse that conviction, I was fighting a deportation order that was caused by that conviction. I was told when I was in Boston, Massachusetts, where my deportation hearing, my deportation process was more or less finished, that there was only 120 days available to me to get through the entire immigration deportation process. So not only was I not able to show why I have a non-frivolous citizenship claim, I was prevented from actually getting evidence to show and support that claim. So the process was allowed to continue in violation of my civil rights from the immigration standpoint in terms of my citizenship, but also in terms of reversing the conviction which caused the immigration process in the first place. For example, if I had been released, I would have been able to work towards reversing the conviction, and there would have been no need for a deportation order in the first place. So when you have no opportunity to get an individualized determination for bond, it creates numerous issues. And it's not that no one should, no one should actually be allowed to have a bond at all. I'm not saying that people should have a bond regardless of what the circumstances are, but everyone has a right to have at least an individualized determination for bond. The vast majority of people that I've met in immigration detention, whether they've served time or not, if a county or a state or even a federal conviction where, say, somebody has served time, or if they haven't even served time, allows them to be back in society, and they're not allowed to follow through with their process in terms of reversing a conviction, then it's clear that people's rights are being violated with respect to the process. So it starts in a civil situation, becomes a criminal situation, it goes back to a civil situation, and people have no control over the process. And so the law has not caught up to what's happening in immigration detention. What's also clear to me is that what is occurring is a program of ethnic cleansing. There are mostly people who speak Spanish or people who are considered Hispanics or Latino and blacks who are being deported. The vast majority of people that I've seen in immigration detention and the vast majority of people who are being deported are minorities. And in my case, I was able to witness thousands of people being shipped from the northeastern part of the United States, where I come from, or where I am an inhabitant, down to Texas, South Texas, in particular where I was. And the rights of people are basically just non-existent. With respect to the Constitution of the United States, people don't understand that there is no Constitution of the United States with respect to immigration rights or migrant rights. Apparently, even the rights of the average citizen are no longer protected by the Constitution. And one of the things that I've been telling people is that the highest level of conversation that can be had is the human rights conversation. Then you have constitutional or civil rights, and when those rights are not protected, you have to default to the higher conversation, the higher level of conversation, which is human rights. We do not get our constitutional rights protected, but it's important for people to understand that we do not get our rights from the Constitution. We have human rights that need to be protected. Therefore, if the Constitution does not cover them, people need to become responsible right away with respect to speaking up about our rights and changing the laws that are on the books to be commensurate with our human rights. In my case, I am currently facing a wrongful indictment for assault while I was in immigration detention. That occurred on June 3rd of 2009. I was assaulted. The assault was caused by an ICE officer. When they couldn't deport me, they knew that there were civil grounds for a civil action against the government. Therefore, they decided to say that I assaulted or I impeded or opposed or interfered with the official duties of a government officer, which is not true. It's absolutely not true. More importantly, what I've realized is that many people's civil rights who are violated are purposefully placed in immigration detention in order for them to be potentially deported, in order to obstruct justice. So numerous local, state, federal law enforcement officials are complicit with immigration officials in terms of getting people into ICE detention in order to make them disappear. That's one of the issues that people need to understand that is occurring, and some of that information can be found in the article called America's Secret ICE Castles that was reported in The Nation on December 16th, 2009. At this point, I do feel that we will be able to expose the truth in terms of what happened to me on a few different levels, and I'm looking forward to also exposing what's happening with respect to immigration policy in the United States. In my case, there is evidence that goes back to 1971 when I first came to the United States at the age of 1 year old that shows that there were numerous mistakes that were made by the Immigration and Naturalization Service with respect to what led to my not being certified as a United States citizen in time before I was 18 through my mother. Many people need to take responsibility for what's happening in immigration detention. It's not just about people who are directly affected by immigration detention and the deportation process, but also people who are in the greater American community with respect to the violations of human rights that are occurring. And so I look forward to working with as many people as possible on that front towards exposing the truth.